Welcome, and thanks for joining us today to talk about government meetings in a hybrid work world. My guest is John Horn, the Federal Director at Pexip. Hi, John. So nice to meet you.
Hi, Vanessa. Good to spend some time with you today.
Thank you. So let's jump right in and talk about what's going on with meetings in the hybrid work world. A lot of agencies are in this hybrid work mode, and they really expect to continue to support hybrid into the future. Let's talk about what are the crucial factors and maybe the challenges that they need to consider when they have some of their employees in the office and some of them at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, and something a lot of agencies are dealing with right now. Maybe 2 years ago, agencies may have had sort of different sorts of technologies. Nothing was standardized. You may have had folks at an executive level using one type of technology, say high-end meeting endpoints, and then others may have had pockets where they were using cloud-based conferencing. Well, the big issue that they have now is getting all of these different types of conferencing systems to talk together. Additionally, some of the problems that they're having include, scheduling. Does it fit within existing workflows? Is it something they can schedule with Outlook? Is it a different process for this video conferencing technology over here versus a cloud-based technology somebody else is using? So I would say definitely interoperability and workflows are some of the challenges.
Those are definitely challenges. Those are challenges whether you're in the government or not. But let's also talk a little bit about Pexip and how can it help agencies kind of address those interoperability challenges? What makes it an ideal platform in a government agency environment?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that make Pexip uniquely capable of addressing government requirements. Initially it would be deployment options. I mean, we're 100% software based. We can go on any cloud compute that you choose in any environment, relative to whatever your security requirements are. We can also be housed on hardware in your data center. But the big thing we bring to the table is interoperability. So we support standards-based video conferencing. That's traditional H.323 endpoints, SIP endpoints, what have you. And then we can also bring folks into systems like Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams doesn't natively connect to those types of endpoints. And so Pexip can do what Microsoft calls Cloud Video Interop, or CVI. We have that capability to bring those users in those high-end systems in the conference rooms into the Teams call.
I think that's a perfect connection to kind of some big news you guys have recently about Pexip Government Cloud and its inclusion on FedRAMP, right? Could you talk about that and why that's kind of an exciting development for you?
Yeah, that's really exciting for us. We've had a lot of really capable, smart people working on this project over the last year or so. So currently, Pexip is in progress. So if you go to the FedRAMP website, you'll see that designation for Pexip. And what's unique about this product, Vanessa, is that we have that CVI capability baked in. There is no other offering, no other FedRAMP offering that's going to be able to offer that. Now, as I said, we are in process. We expect that to be available in the summer. And so what that's going to do is allow those folks that have made that investment in Microsoft Teams to connect the endpoints into the Microsoft Teams call, essentially bridging that hybrid workforce. And it's going to allow folks to deploy a modern IT infrastructure. Something that supports a broad swath of what's out there as far as conferencing options. And when you're talking about the U.S. government, you're talking about mission critical meetings. So it's important that all happen within a accredited security boundary. And that's a big thing that we offer. I wanted to pay my respects to our sponsor, Department of Labor. They've stayed with us during this process. They've been an excellent partner to work with. And we're very excited about that. And we're already seeing interest from a lot of government agencies.
Well, that was going to actually be my follow-up because FedRAMP and working with labor is not really your first foray in federal. You already have quite a few projects underway with agencies across government. Can you talk about some of those projects and maybe share some of the details so people can understand, that you have knowledge about the federal environment and kind of the unique challenges that they have?
Yeah, so Pexip has been working with the government for a while. Our initial customer was the Department of Veterans Affairs, and we appreciate our partnership with them. They've been a strong reference account for us, mainly because they've sort of leveraged the platform for all that it's capable of. There's a high degree of customization within the Pexip platform. We have APIs where you could build a custom client. In the case of the VA, it's the VA Video Connect client, available in places of various app stores that veterans can download. And it allows the administrators for the Pexip deployment within VA to create a client with their users in mind. There may be varying degrees of expertise and comfort with using something like a video soft client. And so they're able to customize that using our APIs. Additionally, we're running on NIPR and SIPR networks, classified and unclassified. We have customers such as NORAD, Northcom, 3Corps, and we're also working with US courts. So you can see that there's a wide swath of use cases there, and those users are able to tailor this product to their specific requirement, all, as I said before, all within that security boundary, all within those security requirements, which is a big deal.
You just mentioned several types of applications and uses and organizations where data security and privacy, because of the type of information that they are using and that might be discussed during meetings, would be paramount, right? Can you talk a little bit about what is really essential to secure video conferencing? What are the elements that an agency would want to have?
Yeah, so the main thing is they've got to be able to accredit the solution, and there are a lot of hurdles. There may be variances based on what type of information is being shared in the conferences. If you take an environment like Microsoft Azure, those that are familiar with it with Azure, there are varying degrees or what they call impact levels. And within those impact levels, there's types of information that can be shared. Some of it has to do with maybe personal employee data. Other types of information may include information about nuclear type concerns. And so each of those environments is very specific about what can be shared there. The good thing about Pexip is that it's software and it can be deployed in each of those environments. Currently, we are deployed in Microsoft IL2 and Azure IL4. We expect soon to be able to deploy an IL5. That could happen this year, and that would just check all the boxes for us. The other thing that we want to be focused on is this notion of zero trust, right? Typically with network security, you sort of have a perimeter and you don't want anything coming in that perimeter. But once it is in the perimeter, the assumption is that if you're in there, you're friendly. In the case of zero trust, there's sort of a micro segmentation of the network, various applications may have different requirements for access to that information, and Pexip plays within that zero trust environment. Recently attended a DOTIS conference for the Intel community, and the topic of zero trust was everywhere, and we're right there.
Yeah, that issue of zero trust and the desire for agencies to move there is huge. It is, like you said, you hear it everywhere you go. Any type of IT event, you're going to hear about zero trust. You touched on it there, but maybe talk a little bit more about like that idea of privileged access, identity, management, access control. Those are the things that are critical. And you kind of alluded to it. Can you maybe touch on that a little more?
Yeah, I mean, folks can deploy what we would call a policy engine, and they're able to customize that, based on, who's trying to access the information, what are your credentials. We can work with those policy engines that they're deploying within their network, I think would be the big thing for us as far as zero trust.
Right. And to the point of segmentation, like you said, because that is a huge piece of it, the privileged access layer on top of that even, can further constrict what is allowed or not allowed, to be used with specific software, apps, and solutions. So for instance, like Pexip, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And not only can you leverage your however you've built out your policy engine, but there's there's customization to the app level. I mean, you may or may not have certain controls available within the app, based on what a person should or should not be allowed to be able to do within the meeting.
Perfect. Well, let's talk a little bit about modernization. You brought that up earlier when we were talking about interoperability across meeting solutions. But how is that playing out, like modernization and the evolution of collaboration tools? And what should agencies really be thinking about when they want to move to, like, maybe perhaps a more modernized meeting environment? What does that mean?
Yeah, I think for modernized, conferencing platform like Pexip, a lot of it has to do with where you can deploy it, how you can scale it. Specifically, the Pexip Infinity product, that can go virtually all in your data center. It can go all in the cloud environment or various cloud environments. That really allows you to scale. You could build out a conferencing infrastructure with regional nodes. All the users in that region tie up to that node, and then across the nodes, which if you're familiar with video conferencing, you can think of those as MCUs or multi-point control units. There's a shared backplane, so it kind of functions as one large entity, wherever you're going to deploy it. The other thing, I think you want to consider is, okay, if somebody has adopted a standards-based approach, your H323 standards, your SIP standards, things like that, then you're putting yourself in a position for a high degree of interoperability. But sometimes out of necessity, organizations have to use proprietary technologies. And that's understandable, because what we're trying to do now with the technology is, and what we've been trying to do over the past 2 years, is proliferate it as quickly as possible across the organization in an efficient and easy to use manner. So some of those tools are proprietary. So you have to have a component in there that facilitates interoperability. And that's what Pexip does, is take those proprietary systems and bring them together with your standards-based infrastructure.
So in the government, there's organizations that are, on par with some of the largest private sector companies in the world. Talk about the issues with ensuring in that new environment that you have a great experience, right? That is a natural meeting experience, issues with latency and those type of things, and ease of use, which you just talked about. Talk about that a little bit. We haven't really touched on it too much, but I think that's when people hear scale with meetings and collaboration tools, they immediately start to be a little bit concerned about that.
Yeah, and those regional nodes serve to minimize latency. If you're on the West Coast, you don't want to be tying back to a data center necessarily on the East Coast. Although, having been in the business since 2000, I've noticed that technology across the board is getting better. I've been in several calls where that signal has had to go on the East Coast, and it's better than I expected. But by and large, you want to architect something with that latency in mind, and those regional nodes, those regional deployments will help with that.
And that's something you can kind of scale out as you go, right? Slowly building so that you're comfortable with what you're doing as you modernize that environment, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that you want to take into account too is redundancy and failover, and that's where we're really, really strong. If you think of a solution where you sort of have the central licensing management node, and then you have other conferencing nodes, regionally dispersed. You can set up a failover across those nodes, or you can have failover occur on-prem in your data center. So even if you're using a cloud solution that's, any cloud solution, frankly, and you need to fall back, Pexip is a fully operational, fully capable video conferencing platform with its own soft clients, its own registration. And so, if that cloud deployment fails, you can fall back to local conferencing resources. So that's a pretty compelling failover and redundancy story.
You hit my next question, which is really going to be, because we're not going to return to the way things were before the pandemic. And so that mission critical aspect is just essential, right? You have to be able to meet and collaborate. So you have to have that kind of business continuity question. So thank you for answering my question before.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, appreciate you, Vanessa. But yeah, the thing that the thing that people are realizing now is that they have to have a definitive, defined video conferencing plan or collaboration plan. A lot of people were caught off guard, and maybe folks adopted a solution hastily that was going to get them up and running, but now they're sitting back and they're evaluating their solution as a whole and determining, how are we really going to build this out? What's the smartest, cost effective, security compliant way to build out a solution?
Exactly. So, I mean, I really appreciate you getting on with me today. This has been a great forward-looking conversation. Before we go, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, just want to remind everybody, you can find more information on this solution at pexipgovernmentcloud.com or pexip.com/government. And we have people on staff that are former government employees that are ready to have that security conversation with you. All the minutia and nuance of accreditation, we can have that discussion. We have had that discussion with a lot of our customers, so we welcome that opportunity.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanessa. Have a good one.
You too. I'd like to thank today's guest, John Horn, the Federal Sales Director at Pexip. I'm Vanessa Roberts. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Pexip.